again, we're so grateful for all of you that are coming in. We will get started here in just a few moments. We want to give people a chance to get in here. Right. And SK, do you want me to do the kind of the front end stuff here, or do you want me to let people into the room?
That would be great if you want to start the front end stuff.
Okay.
I'm managing the weight room here.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, probably not good for you to manage the waiting room and run on the front end. So I'm happy to do that if you wanted to.
Thank you.
Again, as you're coming in, if you wouldn't mind, if you could change your name to give us your name and your organization. That's really helpful to us so that we can kind of make sure we're keeping track of everybody. Just as a reminder, we will be recording this, so if you are not comfortable with having your face out there, no problem. Feel free to just click off that screen and we'll take care of everything there. Just a couple of quick, one thing, if you could, in the chat, and you can either do this privately to SK, or you can just show it to the group, if you would give us your name, program, and email address, that way we make sure all of our records are up to date, making sure you all are getting information that you need. So if you would put your name, organization or program, and your email address in the chat, and you can either do that to everybody, or you can do that directly to SK. So I will put mine, Patrick. Oh, sorry. There we go. There's mine up now. Again, it helps us kind of figure out who all's here and how we can continue to support you all. So thanks so much for doing that. Just a reminder that our sustainability institutes have shifted to be remote this year as opposed to being in person. We miss a lot of the in-person stuff, but we also know that going remote like this through Zoom means more people can participate. And so we're really happy about that. As a reminder, your requirements for grants from Episcopal Charities are that you attend 3 virtual sustainability institutes. We're hosting these once or twice a month, so there's plenty of opportunities to connect with us through these sustainability institutes. Our objective for these is to be helpful. So we've had things on meeting your requirements for safeguarding and sexual assault, sexual harassment training, those kinds of things earlier on. We've had trainings on whether your program is virtual or in person for youth programming. This one's on fundraising, and so we're going to be tapping into some of the expertise from our other program leaders here. So just as a reminder, come to 3 of these. The biggest thing I want to say about this is let us know if there are things you want to talk about. If there are topics that we should be covering that you're like, we just need some more education on whatever it is, we'll go find experts in it. And so if there are specific things that we can help out with, please throw that in the chat or feel free to shoot SK or myself an email and we will go from there. Our format for today is really about sharing ideas and being in conversation. So what's helpful in these kind of Zoom conversations, we're all in this and most everybody's here. So if you're not speaking, if you would throw yourself on mute. That way, when dogs are barking and sirens are going off behind you, you may have to suffer through them, but we all don't have to hear them all the time. So from a practical standpoint, if you would mute yourself when you are not speaking. The second thing is for our speakers. We've got multiple speakers here today. If you would raise your hand on the little reactions deal, what that'll do is that'll put you right at the top of the screen, so that people aren't having to like go through pages and try to figure out who's talking and what's happening. So if you would raise your hand just like that, Jesse just raised his hand right there, and you see he popped right up to the top. So thanks for the demonstration. Kelly has popped it up there at the top. And so if you are going to be one of our speakers today, if you would just raise your hand. Elizabeth, you can raise your hand. And I think we have one more too. Oh, Terry can raise their hand as well.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
So Terry, just wave around in the screen and we'll find you. There you go. You're good. Thanks, Terry. So that will be helpful just so we're all up here. Let's see. I'm looking at the outline here. What have I missed? So what's going to happen is Elizabeth is going to kind of set the table. She's our director of development for Episcopal Charities and has done a great job with us here. And is really going to kind of try to set the table for us and help define a few things for you all as program leaders. And then each one of our
What's the password?
Is Jesse Ramos is the executive director of Crossroads Community Services at St. Bart's in Manhattan, and is going to be sharing a little bit with us. Kelly Hausman is the board president of the Mount Kisco Interfaith Food Pantry in Westchester County. And Terry Berardi is the director at the Community Food Pantry at St. Mary's Mohegan Lake. And each one of them are doing some interesting things that we wanted to kind of call out, kind of a bit of an expertise or something that we've noticed in our interactions with them that we thought would be really helpful to share with the rest of the group. So they will each speak for about 5 minutes or so. And then the objective is to open up for questions and to chat a bit with each other. Like I said, in most everything that we've done, we learn so much more from each other than if it's just SK or myself talking and saying everything. And so we really want to engage in that. So the other thing I would invite you to do is kind of have your chat up and to be throwing questions or thoughts in there. And SK and I, as we're going through, will be able to kind of jump in and clarify something or kind of keep a list of questions going throughout our session today. So with that, SK, is there anything else that we should be talking about here?
I think you hit it all. I'll just say one more time for anyone who has come in since we last said it. If you would use the chat to share your name, email address, and the program or organization that you're with so we can track attendance, that would be really helpful. But otherwise, I think we're ready to turn it over to Elizabeth to set the table here for our conversation.
Great, thanks very much. Hi, everybody. It's not often that I get to actually talk a lot on these, so this is a different position for me normally. So I thought I would just start with kind of an overview for 2020 of what happened on the giving landscape. So I haven't seen the reports from the Chronicle of Philanthropy yet, but I did a little searching on the internet, and charitable giving rose 2% in 2020. And I'm not sure how that compares with what your results were. We had a very different year at Episcopal Charities. And we were able to capitalize on the mobilizing of a lot of the funds that were out there for the pandemic, but that meant we shifted away from our kind of traditional focus on individual fundraising and obviously event fundraising, which is typically very important for us at Episcopal Charities. But there are a couple of other kind of major factors that are going on out there right now that I think certainly have influenced giving in 2020, and I think they're going to continue to be factors here, certainly into 2021. And a lot of that has to do with what is going on in the stock market. And the stock market is at an all-time high right now. So while there are many individuals that clearly have suffered significant economic impact as a result of the pandemic, there are an awful lot of people who have not experienced any decline in terms of their financial position. And that typically is going to be a significant portion of the donor base that any organization is going to want to focus on. So we need to keep that in mind as we think about the types of appeals and the types of gifts we might be asking for. So I know for me right now, I'm making sure that I'm asking for stock gifts when I have any sort of appeal that's going out, because many people are sitting on a large quantity of appreciated assets. And for those of you that are 501c3s and can receive gifts that are direct gifts of stock, those are terrific gifts to be able to accept for an organization, because they're typically larger than you might get from an individual donor, in addition to which they make a bigger impact, obviously, because they're larger, but they also represent significant tax savings to donors. So they can be particularly appealing for those individuals that are sitting on assets of that particular nature. And I certainly have been attending some webinars that have been really kind of drilling some of those points home. So I just wanted to kind of share that. Also, kind of as a corollary to that are the individuals that have donor advised funds. So donor advised funds are they're kind of like bank accounts, if you will, that individual donors can put assets into, typically cash. And those funds then are invested as well in the market. So individuals that have donor advised funds also have benefited from the uptick in the stock market right now. So somebody who has a donor advised fund right now probably has a lot more cash in their donor advised fund than they have previously. So those are also great specific giving vehicles to be calling out in terms of any sort of fundraising appeal that you're making, because folks are sitting on more of that money, and that money that is in those accounts can only be used to support nonprofit organizations. So that is another really great point. And then also individuals that have money that are past 70 and a half that have money in an individual retirement account. They also are able to make what is referred to as a QCD, or a qualified charitable distribution. Also, again, this is an opportunity for them to not have to pay taxes on the money if they are giving money directly from their IRA to your organization. They can forego any of the taxes on that money, and then that also allows them to give you a larger gift and get a significant tax benefit associated with it. So for anybody who's not familiar with some of those types of giving vehicles, I do have some resources that I listed in the worksheet that's available in conjunction with this particular session. I would certainly encourage you to specifically look at freewill.com. They are an entity that provides a variety of services to the nonprofit sector, and they have all sorts of webinars that they have taped on some of these different types of giving vehicles. And so you can become more informed on those as well. The other big trend that is going on in philanthropy right now too is the focus on recurring gifts. I've read a number of assessments of giving when you are able to turn somebody from a one-time giver into somebody who is giving to you on a monthly basis. And the value of those types of conversions is significant. So if you think about the number of donors that you have in your donor list last year, and maybe already this year, that have given you $100, and this is a first time gift from them, and maybe a one-time only gift that you've gotten from them, if you can somehow connect with them and convert them into being a monthly donor to your organization, it has two significant benefits. First of all, you have a much more even flow of revenue coming into the organization. But secondarily, the likelihood that someone is just going to finish out their time period to give you that $100, and the likelihood that they're going to continue giving you for a longer period of time, it's much greater that they're likely to give to you for a longer period of time. And the average donor that you're able to convert from a one-time donor into a monthly giving donor usually increases the amount of giving by 440%. So if you took every one of those $100 donors and turned them into donors that were giving to you monthly, the same amount for a year, they're probably going to stick around for a whole lot longer, and they're going to be worth $440 to your organization. So it's a great opportunity. If you don't have that type of giving vehicle available, I would certainly encourage you to find a way to make those types of gifts available as options, either on your website or through PayPal or whatever other vehicle you're using. So that's kind of the global landscape that I just kind of wanted to set the table for. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about having a plan for how you're kind of attacking fundraising for your organization. And I wanted to start just with a quick question, and feel free to unmute yourself and just answer on this. So can somebody tell me why they think donors give?
So I've heard that it's because it's because they want to feel good. That's usually what most people, there has to be some sort of an incentive for them.
Great. Thanks, Marina.
This is Rose. Some people want to give because they can have it as a tax write-off.
Also another reason. Yep.
Some folks have a relationship with your organization.
Also important. People generally give to causes that they have some sort of connection to, right?
Your mission has moved them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. These are all, I think, important. I think the other basic reason why people give is, you know why? Because you asked them. And I think that is something really, really important to keep in mind, because if you don't make sure that you're asking your donors on a regular basis, you may be out of sight and out of mind for them. So I think it's really a great guiding principle as you think about putting together your fundraising plan. And again, some of these other comments I think are really important. So if you think about how you are able to encourage new donors, they need to have some sort of linkage to your organization. That may mean that they're interested in the particular constituency that you're serving. It may be that you're connected in their community and you're serving in their community and they like that. For those of you that are obviously all of the programs are connected with parishes. So obviously we've got connections to individuals at maybe one parish or multiple parishes if you're sponsored by a variety of different faith entities. So it's important to have some sort of linkage. Folks also have to have the ability to give. And certainly we have donors that maybe don't have large ability, but obviously as we think about the donors that are in our donor base, we want to focus the majority of our efforts on those that have significant financial resources so that we can really count on some of those larger types of gifts. And then they have to be interested in your cause. And that all kind of ties into some of the messaging that you're giving to them in terms of the impact that you're making in your program, and being able to demonstrate that the mission of the organization is indeed being fulfilled. So to that end, it's important to have a plan for how you're going to go out and fundraise for the year. And a lot of that is really just getting a calendar together and laying out the events that are going to be part of your plan for the year. So for us at Episcopal Charities, we do direct mail appeals. Those are usually only twice a year. We typically have a couple of events. I've been hoping we were going to add a 5K run last year, and I was hoping we're going to add a 5K run this year, but I'm not sure that any of those types of events are going to happen still this year, just given timing issues. And then are you participating in any peer-to-peer fundraiser events? Those are all things that you want to layer out over your calendar. There certainly are other special days that you may want to focus on. Obviously, having a Giving Tuesday appeal towards the end of the year is really important. For us, we have also our Episcopal Charities Sunday, which takes place on Mother's Day every year. But maybe if you're a feeding program, maybe you have something special that you host on World Hunger Day. So if you think about those things, again, make sure that those are layered onto your calendar. And then if you are focusing on particular grant funders, You probably have a sense of what their grant cycles are. Those should be layered on so that, again, you make sure that you've got resources available in the event that you've got a lot of things that are coming due at one time, and you have got ample time to be able to plan for any of those types of projects that you've got to work on or anything else of that nature. And then you can fill in, with where are you going to put your social media asks into your calendar. So as you look at how things are laid out, maybe you don't have a whole lot of things that are scheduled to take place during the months of July and August. That may be a great time for you to go ahead and layer some of those on. And then if you are an organization that focuses on a lot of individual meetings with donors, also you want to make sure that you've got some of those layered into your calendar as well. And those certainly can be both virtual visits with donors right now, while we're still in this quasi weird world that we're living in right now. And then eventually at some point in time, hopefully there will be in-person events as well. So those are just a few things about planning. I wanted to just briefly talk about making community foundations part of your plan as well. This has been a big focus for Episcopal Charities this year. We have focused a lot on a lot of grant writing this year. Community foundations are really important. They are typically public charities that focus on supporting a specific geographical area, and they are usually working to try to address a lot of really basic needs in their community. They often receive bequests from local persons whose legacy is modest, and that helps to enable their work. Some of them are quite large, and some of them also run donor advised funds. So they are great organizations to become familiar with and add them as part of your plan. You don't always have to be a 501c3 to get money from them, but a lot of that will come from you getting to know that particular organization and meeting with their program officer. So we would certainly encourage you to, if you find a community foundation that is supporting your particular geographic region, reach out, introduce yourself, get them to know who your organization is, what your mission is. See if there is overlap between what you're doing as a program and their areas of interest for funding. That can go a long way towards helping you move the ball forward and being able to submit a particular grant to them. And when you think about filling out a grant application to them, make sure that you're really clear about what the mission and the vision and the values are of your organization. A lot of these things are very repetitive as you apply for grants. You typically have to have those statements. So go ahead and spend some time crafting the answers to those, and have them in nice, succinct, bite-sized pieces, so that those are things that you can use routinely as you're applying for grants. When you're applying for grants to a community foundation, make sure you're going to spell out what is the problem that your program addresses, and how does your program solve that particular problem, and how are you going to measure the resolution of the problem and the success that you're having. And do you need help writing a grant? Well, guess what? We have resources available for you at Episcopal Charities if you need some resources. So we have our consultant corps of volunteers, and we do have individuals with grant writing experience. So if this is like completely new to you, or you're not confident in your abilities in this area and you want some assistance, we can provide you with a consultant corps member who can help you with that. I have been getting a lot of experience writing grants in the past year, and I am also happy to help you if you need somebody to review, or just somebody as a sounding board. Like, do you think this is like, should I go down this angle or this angle? We're happy to help with that. I also would point out to you that we also have a great resource that's available in the nonprofit sector. It's the Foundation Center, also known as Candid. They have a phenomenal book. I will plug their book for you. It is the Foundation Center's Guide to Proposal Writing. If you need a Bible for writing grants, this is the one to have. It is absolutely great, and it talks you through all the different types of of proposals that you might need to write, whether it's a letter of intent or whether it's a full-blown proposal, and the different types of budgets and all of those types of things. So that can be a terrific resource to have on hand. And that organization also has a subscription service that you can find other funders beyond these community organizations that are out there to help fund your organization. So I've already taken up way too much time. In the handout, there are also other resources. So I have a variety of websites that I've included that have all sorts of resources, blogs, webinars, worksheets. Please look through that list. If you're not subscribed to some of those, I certainly would encourage you to do that. Kind of the more resources that everybody has available, I think usually people are better off because you can approach your particular fundraising need from a variety of different angles when you see different people and how they're approaching it. So I think with that, I will pass the baton to, I think, who's up next?
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yep.
I'm sorry, just a quick thing. Elizabeth, can you give us the title again of the book?
Yes, it is The Foundation Center's A Guide to Proposal Writing. Should be available probably on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or just about anywhere else.
Awesome. And I just wanted to call out that we put a couple of times the worksheet that Elizabeth was referring to in the chat there. And it's also posted on our Sustainability Institute website where all our other resources are. And we will update those. Those are all live documents there on the website. So we continue to make changes and add to them and re-upload them. So we add this book to the list and make sure that that is explicitly included there. And the other thing I would say is if anyone has any fundraising materials or digital appeals that you've sent out or videos or things that you're proud of that your program has done, we would love to share that with everyone and get a compilation together of different resources. So feel free to shoot those to us by email too, and we can spread the love there. Let's pause for a second and see if there are any questions for Elizabeth before we go to our program speakers. Excellent. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. That was really, really helpful. And those resources, again, that are in the chat and on the website are really awesome. So do check those out. And we'll go to our first program speaker, which is Jessie Ramos of Crossroads Community Services. And Crossroads had a really successful virtual fundraising event recently that Jessie's going to talk to us about, and has also been doing some great digital appeals. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Jessie.
Hello, everyone. You know, last year we were all thrown into this COVID circumstance where we didn't know what our next step was going to be, especially as we were all looking at our calendars and seeing that gala or major picnic or traditional gathering where we depend on, and it was just taken off the calendar. And what I discovered and what I advised my other agencies that I work with were a few things. One, to have the event, even if it was digital. And it didn't matter how big or how small you were, you needed to go ahead and keep it on your calendar. And if you canceled it last year because of COVID, I strongly, strongly advise do it this year. Put it back on your calendar and don't reinvent the wheel. If it was called Wine and Dine, the annual Wine and Dine event, call it the annual Wine and Dine event. If you're going to have to go digital, then mention that. We're going, because of COVID restraints, we're being overly cautious and we're going to go digital this year. So last year, when I walked into Crossroads, they were thinking of, one, renaming the event and moving it over to Giving Tuesday. Our event traditionally falls in the Friday after Thanksgiving. Um, so I came in and I said, I think you should leave it on the Friday after Thanksgiving. And if you call it fair share, let's call it fair share. Keep that the same. So when you reach out to your donor base, they're going to know exactly what you're doing. Oh, fair share. And then they're going to read, they're doing it again. Oh, it's going to be a digital event. And that's so important because if you've been doing an annual event, you most likely have a dedicated following of people that are always going to support you. And what we hate most as donors is things to be changed on us. You know, I had 2 organizations that I contribute to every year, and they changed the name and they changed the date because of COVID. And I nodded and I said, well, I sort of understand why they're doing that. But guess what? When it came around for them to, I didn't support them because spring is when I support someone else. And I'm used to in November, I usually go there. I mean, I'm a person of habit. I'm a creature of habit. And I think the majority of donors are. So that's such a big point, to stick to your event. If it's an annual, if it's the first week in June, the first week in May, the end of May, if you connect it to Memorial Day kickoff, if you do a Father's Day event, stay there. Don't move around and don't rename it. Let your donor base recognize what you're doing. Now the digital, it's amazing. I am simply amazed at the response of entrepreneurs who you can now tap into, and they will do a digital event for you. They will create it, they will produce it, they will record it for you. We were just today, we were doing a little homework because we're already thinking of our November event. Are we, how ready are we going to be to have 300 people in a room for that annual dinner? I don't think we are. I think we're going to be very prudent and cautious, and I just don't see us having a sit-down dinner. I think others might, but we're not. We're not going to do that. So this year we changed it radically. We fed 300 guests, and these are our guests that come and receive a grab-and-go meal every day. But we made it a very special meal, and we included a gift bag. And so that was distributed instead of having them coming into the sanctuary and sitting down and having a dinner with our sponsors and donors. So this year we plan to do probably a combination of things. I think I'm still going to do a digital event this year, simply because I just don't feel comfortable mixing our guests with our donors, not knowing who's vaccinated and who's not, who agreed to be vaccinated and not. You know, I'm very curious as to what Broadway is going to do. Are you going to have to show your vaccination card when you go to a Broadway show? Are they going to sit us in the traditional rows, shoulder to shoulder? And I just pose these questions because I'm posing those same questions to myself. So I'm going to do a combination of both. And as far as my digital campaigns, we're getting ready to launch our first spring appeal at Crossroads. They've never done one before, and I'm doing a combination of both. I'm doing a hard copy letter with a traditional remittance form and self-addressed envelope. And I'm also using Constant Contact to reach out to everyone, all of my 600 donors whose emails I have. And it's going to be concentrated. It's sponsor a day at Crossroads. I line up all my programs, and so I'm asking people, will you sponsor a breakfast? Will you sponsor a week of dinners? Will you sponsor Saturday Cafe? And I give a brief description, and it's tiered from $100 to $5,000. I long ago stopped asking for $25. I think I stopped doing that 20 years ago, and I stopped asking for $50. And I think around 2 years ago, I stopped asking for $75. I now start at 100. I always have the option to other amount. Every gift, despite its size, is appreciated. But I'm a strong believer in asking. I totally agree with you, Elizabeth. My philosophy on fundraising is asking. And what I'm looking forward to is being able to meet with major donors shoulder to shoulder and present them with my plan to ask. Those are my 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Thank you so much for sharing that. Does anyone have any comments or things that are coming up for folks hearing Jesse share there? Any questions about digital events or anything like that?
I'll just share, I was reminded that this year we were very mindful about when to do our annual appeal, because normally it would have kind of coincided with the election, and we didn't want, and we were really worried about snail mail and ballots, and everything was slow, and the postal service was a mess. So we didn't coincide, but what we did do was in October, we did a constant contact ask for the annual appeal to our full email. And then we gave everybody a chance to respond. And then everybody who donated through the constant contact, we pulled their names from the hard copy. So we ended up sending out a lot fewer hard copy appeals, which saves on postage, but it was sort of a hybrid this year, and it was successful. So I think we'll probably do that again, and more people are responding early on through constant contact, which actually is easier to process. So it kind of makes our job easier.
Kelly, we did the same thing. We were very mindful of the election, and we held back on our annual appeal. One thing I think it's the combination of the hard copy and the digital version. And so like for this spring appeal that we're getting ready to launch, I found a database company, and we bought 3,000 names given to us with a lookalike. They used an algorithm to compare it to the donors they give to you already. And I gave them the 12 zip codes surrounding our neighborhood. We're at 51st and Park Avenue. And so we just purchased 3,000 names. And so even if we get a 3% return, that's 90 new donors that we didn't have before.
Right.
Just thought I'd share that.
Thanks, Jesse. And I just for everyone's reference, just dropped that Crossroads Spring Appeal that Jesse was referring to in the chat. That has some really great, it's a really great example of a sort of sponsorship model and ask in fundraising. So check that out too. And next, we're going to go to Terry, who is the director at the Community Food Pantry of St. Mary's Mohegan Lake, who's going to talk to us about some of these sort of passive sources of fundraising income and ways to have community partnerships be bringing money into your program. So Terry, thank you so much.
Am I on? Am I here? Okay. I'm not sure.
You're good. Sorry.
Okay.
I was fumbling over my buttons trying to tell you.
Okay. All right. I've been asked to talk about partnerships with businesses. We have not seen a great change in those kinds of partnerships with the COVID. They're long-standing. And I want to say that we need to know that we're not alone out there, and that our businesses want to support us. It's a way of advertising for them, and it is a way of providing money to our organizations. They want to give locally. One of the things that we have been doing for many years is, and we follow and open the door. If somebody says something to us, For example, one of our board members said, "Oh, did you know that the Chico's Family Market has a charity at choice at checkout?" I said, "No, I didn't know that." We followed up. We are now a member of charity at checkout at the Chico's Family Supermarket. That doesn't bring a lot of money, but it is consistent. And again, it is advertising. That ability, that program is on our website so that people can see that we are members of that, so that when they stop in the store, and all they have to do is say the community food pantry or St. Mary's, and a portion of money comes to St. Mary's on a quarterly basis. Another program that we've been involved in for many years locally. And again, someone said, oh, guess what? Our school, one of our board members said, our elementary school belongs to Amazon Smile. And I said, really? Okay, we opened the door. We applied and we are now members of Amazon Smile. Again, that is listed on our website. Is it a great deal of money that we get each month? No, quarterly, but it all adds up. And again, I believe that it is advertising, so that when we do appeal to people, we do say that you can reach us through these local community businesses or international businesses, as Amazon is. So anyway, that's two of the things. We're also connected to our local Macy's. We have been for years. They do a yearly bag hunger campaign. And for over 10 years, we have been the recipient of their charitable donation. They have now expanded that to have a little change, extra change, so that customers are now involved. It was previously just an employee campaign. Now they've involved their customers so that you can raise up at when you purchase your item from Macy's. And again, quarterly we receive, and they then double it. Macy's Charitable Foundation, whatever our local Macy's comes up with, Macy's Charitable Foundation matches it. And because of our relationship with Macy's this year, the manager of our local Macy's invited us to apply for a grant through the Charitable Foundation. I immediately responded. I immediately filled out the forms, and we did receive close to a $2,000 grant through the Macy's Charitable Foundation. Those are some of the connections, some of the doors that we've opened up. I think availability, being part of the community, longevity, establishing relationships, listening to people, opening that door, following that. So much of the money that we receive is through word of mouth and individuals. We get calls from people who will say, or again, Acme, our local supermarket, Stop and Shop, had campaigns where if people purchased sustainable bags during a particular month, we were the charity of choice. As soon as they asked us if we would like to do that, we said yes. Because all those pennies, when you walk through the parking lot and you see the penny on the ground, pick it up. And that's what we tend to do, especially with these raising funds in our local community. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I mean, we have partnerships with our interfaith churches, as you do. We have partnerships with our schools, incredible partnerships with our schools. Our Lakeland Federation of Teachers this year during COVID have stepped up and are donating first food and now checks. We just received a $3,000 check from Lakeland Federation of Teachers. Why? Because we're part of the community. Why? We're feeding their children, as we call them, all of our children. And we know that they need to come to school with full bellies, even if they're learning from home. We're also involved with our Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts as partners. And all of these people, we make sure we say thank you. We make sure we say thank you. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted me to address.
That was great. Thank you so much, Terry. I really appreciate you lifting up how important it is to ask the question of what's available in your community and to really lean into those relationships and connections. So thank you so much for sharing that. Unless there are any burning questions for Terry right now, I'll move to our last speaker so we have a few minutes to chat at the end here. So I'm going to hand it over to Kelly Hausman, who is the president of the board at the Mount Kisco Interfaith Food Pantry, who's going to talk to us a little bit about donor retention and keeping folks engaged.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. It's very interesting because I think that this year, I'm sure we're not alone in the number of new donors that we have. It's a little premature, I think, to talk about a successful strategy for retaining donors when really it's going to be a matter of how many of these donors are coming back to us next year. I did a quick statistic, and since last March, so the 12 months ending this month, 67% of our donors were new, which is kind of that's an extraordinary statistic. So it is our first area of engagement were all of the people who came to us in March and April and May. We really wanted them to respond to our annual appeal last fall. And I don't have the exact statistic, but we were successful because we had so many people in that calendar year who gave multiple times. So they really stuck with us. And now we need to make sure that they're our long-term partners. So what we've really been trying to do was balance our touch points with our donor base, make sure that we kept in touch with them without overwhelming them. So we've really relied on some strategic use of our social media and particularly Constant Contact. We have a schedule where we send about once a month, we do a Constant Contact, and we're very, our communications team sort of sat down at the beginning of the year and mapped out each month what the theme would be. Midway through the summer, September, I guess it was July, August, we did what we called sort of an annual report, which was, it was simple, it was straightforward, it was clean. There were pictographs showing essentially what we did during the height of how we served during the height of the pandemic. And we got some really positive feedback from donors on that. They like to see exactly where their money was going, but we didn't overwhelm them with a lot of bar graphs. It was very easily digestible. We also did some focused ask for our summer lunch program, our Schools Out supplement program. So as Elizabeth said, when you ask for something specific, you say, this is what this program is, this is what we're asking you to do, this is where it was going. We found that was very successful. I guess my takeaway really is sort of this balance of not overwhelming, but really recognizing our new donors. We made an effort to personalize our responses. We obviously, when they give online, and most of these new donors came to us through our website, there's an automatic response, sort of an automatic message that comes back with the receipt from Donor Perfect. That's what we use. But we've really tried to personalize that and update it on a fairly regular basis. So it's not just thank you for your generosity. It's kind of, where are we right now? So there's a letter from me, but the information that they see is updated on a fairly regular basis. It's timely. And then we really make an effort. We recognize when somebody is a first-time donor. So go beyond that, automatic receipting thank you that they get. And when you have the time, and if you have the staff or the volunteers to do it, to send an email, follow up. You have their email address, especially when they're a first-time donor, saying, thank you so much for becoming part of our our pantry family, or you're joining us as a supporter. So just by, taking that moment to recognize that they've come to you for the very first time, I can't tell you how often I get emails back from my emails. Folks really want to feel that you have seen that gift. So even if you sort of have a criteria where, okay, it's a gift of $250 or $500 and above and new donors. So, but try to stick to that and really reach out with that personal email if you can. And now that more donors are giving online and we have that information, it's easy to do. And you can even have an email template that you turn to. That's your personal response. But I really have found that it's been very well received by our donors. And also, again, we're all strapped for time and resources and staff and volunteers. But if you can, your board president or head of development, when you have a new donor with a big gift, or a repeat donor with a big gift, trying to reach out with a phone call for a thank you. Sometimes you reach them and sometimes you don't, but leave a message. And say thank you. Again, as Terry said, I can only echo that thank you is really, really important, and that keeps them with you, I think. Just in terms of, somebody had talked about, we're really thinking about how we can transition some of our donors to become recurring donors. We're actually, I'll just throw it out there. Tomorrow we have a phone call. There's an app out there called Harness. I don't know if anybody uses it. I know that there's some other pantries and agencies that use it. We're just exploring it. I don't know that we're going to make a choice, but it has features that help you take donors, help you transition your donors to recurring donors. It also has a feature where your donors can choose to round up every credit card purchase. So not just they don't have to choose at the market and then the market pays you. They register their credit card, and every purchase that they make on their credit card, it'll automatically round up 3 cents or 10 cents or whatever, and then it aggregates and you get the gift. I don't know that we're going to make this choice, but I'm throwing it out there that there are applications and features out there that are available if you're looking to enhance your whatever application you're using, that it might be a good choice for you. I just wanted to mention, Elizabeth, you talked about the gift of appreciated stock. And for the very first time this year, we were approached. Somebody wanted to make a gift of appreciated stock, and we kind of had to scramble, and we had to open a brokerage account. So if you are going, which is, not a big deal and it doesn't cost any money, but if you are going to make the effort to explicitly ask for a gifts of appreciated stock or encourage it, why don't you make sure that you have your brokerage account set up ahead of time? Just go to Schwab or whatever and get it done. And because it takes a little bit longer now that everything's remote and your treasurer is in one place and you're in another place. So I would just encourage you to do that. Let's see, I think that's I don't want to take up too much more time, but those are my highlights, I think.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kelly. I'm as you're talking, making a list here of things to add to our resource document tomorrow. Thank you so much. Let's open it up here. We've got about 5 minutes left. For any questions that are coming up or comments that are specific to something that folks have shared, or just general kind of questions or issues around fundraising that are coming up for you. And again, we can schedule follow-up conversations in smaller groups, but really want these last 5 minutes to be useful to you all. So let me open up the floor here. Kelly.
I'm sorry, there were 2 things that I meant to say, and they might be terribly evident, but on your website, if you don't have the option to have your donor cover
Yes.
cost, make sure you have that, because we found this, especially as more people are giving online, I would say 85% or more of our donors choose to cover costs. So if you're not asking, they're not doing it, and you're getting a big chunk of change.
That was really big for our tribute dinner. We moved to a different platform. Thank you for lifting that up. Yeah.
So Donor Perfect allows that. I know not all of them do, but that does. And then the last thing is that we have a note on our giving page at the top that also advises folks that if they would like to do a bank transfer, they can do that, you know, have their bank send a check to us, because then you don't have any transaction costs. And there's a very explicit reminder on the receipt to think about check with your employer to ask for a matching gift. I mean, that's probably obvious to everybody, but that's just a quick reminder.
Thank you. Other folks, anyone have any other questions or comments here? Tom, I see your hand.
Probably a lot of you are doing this, so this isn't going to be news. But when the first stimulus check went out, we had a couple of people write to us and say, I don't need the stimulus, I'm giving it to you. So this time, before the $1,400 checks started to come out, we wrote to everybody and said, a couple of people have asked us, if I don't need the stimulus check, can I give it to you? The answer is yes. And we don't know yet what the result of that will be. Maybe nothing, but we'll see.
Thanks for that, Tom. Yeah, that's a great ask to make. And I think there's great stories to tell there too about redistributing funds that we have, and that weren't those benefits that weren't accessible for everyone, you know, including the folks that you're working with at UIDN. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Whoops. I have a lot of trouble with this. SK, I just wanted to add that it's so, to me, very important, those thank yous, from whether it's a $10 gift to $1,000 gift, to say thank you and make it somewhat personal. So when I write my list, and we do it monthly, when I write the list for that month's thank yous, I will put next to the amount something. If it was personal, we say thank yous for in-kind donations. If somebody did it for in memory of, so that we try to make those thank yous as personal as possible.
Mm.
And also for those monthly people who have become monthly donators, to express our gratitude about the fact that they're doing that, whether it's a $25 monthly donation, or we have a couple that are over 1,000. So it's really pretty amazing to me. And I think that the communication of saying thank you and posting it, sometimes we say thank you on the website, especially for our youth. If anybody looks at our website, you'll see that we had a special education class from Walter Panis High School made 60 baskets for our Easter basket distribution. So we said 3 cheers to them. We put their pictures on with their parents' permission, and that kind of response inspires other people. So.
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate that. Saying thank you, right? It's always so important. I was just today ordering postcards to write thank you notes to our volunteers, because next month is Volunteer Appreciation Month. Just a little plug for that too, right? And that's another way that it's important to keep people, folks really like to be recognized and seen and appreciated for what they're doing to help you all advance your mission. So it is 5 o'clock. Thank you so much to our program speakers for so generously sharing your ideas, and for all of you for being engaged in this conversation. We have this running list of things to add to our Sustainability Institute document that we'll update and post on the website later this week. And the recording of this workshop will be posted as well for you to go back to. And as always, we're so grateful to you all. We are here for you. Let us know how we can continue to have this conversation and continue to be helpful to you all in all of your fundraising endeavors. So everybody have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See you next time.
I know.